Ladies and gentlemen, namaste. This is Anil Kishore Devarapalli from Hyderabad, India. I'm going to talk about a slightly different topic called risk management. A little bit of context is this. So, if you talk about the pillars of food security, production is the number one pillar, consumption is another pillar, and I would say for a given production and consumption, risk management is the third pillar. Now, why and how risk management is very, very important, and how the wheat prices can be managed with efficient risk management practices is something that I'm going to talk about in the next 10 minutes. So, the kind of methods and solutions that I am proposing probably are already being practiced by ASRT or GASP or some other organizations in Egypt. Since this is an idea generation process, let us debate it, let us discuss. Let me directly take your attention to the wheat prices. If you look at the recent price history, prices have gone up to 1300, 1400 cents per bushel. This is CBOT, global trade market, and as per the latest Friday's close, prices have come back to 796 cents per bushel. What will happen to the prices? So when we talk about risk management, the first aspect is to have a reasonable level of price forecasting capabilities. Here, if you look at the graph, it seems that prices have been trading between, on the lower side, 720 cents per bushel, and on the higher side, 750, 780 cents per bushel. So it appears that prices are trading in a range-bound mode. But if you look at the long-term price chart, over the period of last 3 to 4 years, wheat prices have reached to a different level of equilibrium. So before the war has begun, the highest that the prices were traded were below 600, and after the war, prices have gone up to 1300, 1400, and then came back to 786, but the prices have not come below 600. So the question would be whether the prices would come back to below 700 levels, or it will continue to remain in the new equilibrium of above 700 but below 800 levels. That would be the question. If you look at the prices of different origination sources, these are the key origination sources. So currently, Russian Federation is the lowest source of origination, and so currently it is trading at $305 per ton. So the key question here is that whether Russia will continue to remain the lowest source of origination, and will the discount of Russia, let us say for example to Europe, will be the current level of $15 per ton, or the discount is going to be higher or lower. I'm not going to provide any straight answers right now. I'm only generating the right questions and what should be the right approaches to derive answers. Based on the available very generic fundamental data, it looks like Russia will continue to remain the lowest cost supplier. Based on the production data, if you look at Russia is going to supply 16 million tons more. Ukraine, because of the war and lower sowings, is going to supply 4 million tons less. Australia is going to have a bumper production in 2023 and then going to supply 6 million tons more. So overall global supplies are going to be higher, and Russia probably will continue to remain discounted by $15 to $20 compared to Europe, and Russia probably will continue to remain the major source of supplies for Egypt. So I have taken only one example of how prices can be predicted. And within prices also, if you look at the bottom third row, I'm only talking about the premiums and discounts. But if you look at the overall price action as the totality, prices is a function of many elements. I have taken 3 key elements, which is of production, consumption, and trade flows. Production in turn is a function of climate, is a function of fertilizer input usages, and sowing intentions. Similarly, consumption is a function of inflation, macroeconomic factors, the changing trends in consumption, and reaction to the prices. So when the prices are higher, typically consumption goes down. When the prices are lower, consumption goes up. Or in the case of Egypt, when the global prices are higher, the subsidy amount has to be increased. When the global prices are lower, then the subsidy amount has to be decreased. Similarly, trade flows. So what I'm trying to impress upon you is that the amount of data transformation that has to be done to reach to the level of price forecasting is huge. In each of those things, either we can do a fundamental approach like the way I have shown in the previous slide, or we can go deeper and apply artificial intelligence, machine learning models in each of these models, in each of these matrices. For example, I have taken just one small example of the previous slide where a question is whether Russia will continue to remain discounted to the other countries and how much more. And what would be, if we follow an artificial intelligence approach, what are the steps to be followed? Probably these are the kind of ideas that will form the base for the pilot projects and the new projects that ASRT would come in terms of developing the capabilities. The first step would be collecting the data. Data can be divided into 2 sets of data, 10 years of data and 5 years of data, and build all the models in the first 10 years of data and then test those models on the next 5 years of data. The second step is developing the models. In developing the models, there are various, I have mentioned few of the models that are used in in today's artificial intelligence are ML repetitive models. And the third step is testing, model testing and revisiting of the data. And then comes the final steps of the usages and applying for the next set of 3 months, 6 months and 1 year. This is the level of intensity, level of depth that we need to go for an artificial intelligence or ML based models, either from the fundamental or to the complex artificial intelligence models. So the first step that I'm talking about so far in risk management is to develop reasonable capabilities of price forecasting. But is price the total element in decision making, or are there any other elements? I would say there are many elements in decision making. So what are all the steps that we have followed so far, whether it is a fundamental approach or a very technical, deeper IT-based approach that will give us the price estimation capabilities. But along with that, there are many things. There are stocks in the system, there is inventory, so you already have stocks. That stocks are either high priced or low priced, and then there is a risk in the system, and there are metrics to calculate risk. For example, value at risk is a metric that is used. So when you combine all these important matrices, we come out with different kinds of scenarios. One scenario, for example, is the price forecast is bearish, prices are going to be lower. There are very high stocks in the system, so there is a lot of cushion in the system, and then the stocks are already very low priced, and then there is very low risk in the system. So when everything is favorable to us, then the final decision making would be hedge or cover smaller quantities. So we need not cover very high quantities for the future. Let me take another scenario which is completely opposite of the most favorable scenario, where I'm saying prices are going to be very bullish, there are very low stocks in the system, inventories are high priced, and the risk in the system is very high. Then we need to cover hedge or maximum quantities for the next 3 months or 6 months. What I'm trying to bring your attention is that along with the prices, there are so many data points that are there within the system or outside the system that needs to be brought together to take decisions. In this way, we will be able to manage risk much better. So this is the second aspect. The first aspect being the price forecasting capabilities, the second aspect being the risk management practices, bringing in various matrices onto the same platform. But how do we do that? Is it all can be done in Excels? Can it all be done in papers? No. We need to have proper systems and processes in place wherein all the data points need to be brought together to be able to make effective decisions. What I'm saying here, so we are talking about prices, there is a price data. There is physical price data, there is import price data, and domestically produced crop has another prices. There is inventory data. Again, inventory is at different places. I understand that Egypt has a large distribution system. Wheat is converted into bread and bread is distributed. So how do we bring all the data into one system from different formats, different shapes, and then convert into the common data format. In this, there is a large, iteration processes for us to be able to finally lead to a centralized reporting and decision making. So this is the third aspect. So I was talking about the price forecasting capabilities, the risk management processes, and now I'm talking about the systems that I would recommend to be, placed for the central authorities to be able to take effective decisions. So let me take, those being the overall three steps. Let us ask a question that, what currently Egypt is doing against what probably the large multinational companies across the world who are trading, 5 to 10 or 5 to 50 million tons of, grains. Let me take one by one. Building commodity supply and demand estimates. The companies are using crop surveys, satellite imagery, different kinds of models on climate and yield, etc. In price forecasting, companies are using the fundamental analysis, technical analysis, and algorithms. In logistics tracking, there is a lot of satellite imagery that is getting into logistics tracking. We know exactly how many ships are lined up, and accordingly you will come to know whether there are going to be more imports to a particular destination, and therefore the premiums and discounts are going to be higher or lower. In price risk management, there are separate independent risk teams, and sometimes the risk teams are as large as 20, 30 people. They are given independent authority to monitor the limits and enforce limits. Data monitoring, there are in data integration and risk management softwares. AI ML models are used somewhere, either in one of these matrices, particularly in the commodity production forecasting, as well as in logistics. So the artificial intelligence and ML models are not fully properly used, but they are being developed. So against these matrices and against these tracking systems, probably you could think about where Egypt and the concerned authorities like GASCI are currently standing. Just to give you a little bit of framework of what could be developed considering the Egypt situation. I'm developing a kind of broad framework saying that if these are the countries of origin and what is going to be production, exportable supplies, logistics, if there are any bilateral arrangements and expected supplies related to the others, then what is going to be the decision? What is going to be the expected prices from 3 months, 6 months, and 1 year? What is going to be the percentage of shipments from each of those countries, and accordingly what is the percentage of hedging? So these are some kind of frameworks that could be developed. Finally, these are my concluding remarks in terms of broad roadmap. If I'm allowed to suggest, what I would suggest is that the fundamental trackers have to be developed. That is something that can be started. If it is already there in place, then we can build the capabilities around the first point within the first 6 months, and then risk management frameworks and systems. Then we can get into the software development and implementation can happen after 1 year development within the first year. And if the budgets allow and all, the artificial intelligence and ML models can be brought into in each of those matrices or some of those matrices, probably initially with the premium discount matrix, because Egypt anyway has to import 10 million tons to 11 million tons, and therefore the basic question is that which country is going to be the lowest cost supplier, and after that large scale price prediction. So with all these done, then I can foresee that a 2% savings can be achieved initially, and 2% savings for an import of 11 million tons is approximately $75 million, which is not small. And over a period of time, you can achieve significant lean technology adoption. So probably from being somewhere behind or equal to the overall technology adoption, Egypt can lead, and Egypt can become a model in technology adoption. So with that, I will conclude. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Anna, for a very interesting presentation and case study. So, without further ado, now we're having our last speaker, Mr. Salman Haider. So he's the